Thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman. Here's what we're looking at.
Because I want SNAP to go to the people.
The country's largest food aid program will be partially funded as the government shutdown is poised to become the longest ever. We hear from local members of Congress on the impact. And the new leader of the Adler Planetarium on her vision for the historic institution and the pressures museums are facing under the Trump administration. First off tonight, SNAP recipients may still have a lot of questions, even though the Trump administration today agreed to fund the food aid program, but only partially. A pair of judges ruled last week that the administration must continue funding the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program even during the government shutdown. The U.S. Department of Agriculture said, it had planned to stop payments as of November 1st, but the administration has reversed course under judges' orders. USDA says it'll use just under $5 billion in contingency funds to cover half the normal benefits. But it's still not clear just how much beneficiaries will receive or how quickly they'll start to see that value on their SNAP debit cards. The process of loading them through state and federal agencies and vendors can take up to 2 weeks in some states, and we'll have more on the government shutdown with Congress members in just a few minutes. Mourners gathered today in downstate Illinois to remember the family of Republican candidate for governor Darren Bailey, whose son, daughter-in-law, and 2 grandchildren were killed in a helicopter crash last month.
The Baileys' love for each other was never hidden, and they were a family that was inseparable. While known together, they were also known and treasured for their unique personalities. Zach, the loud, fun-loving, and adventurous leader. Kelsey, the enthusiastic, joyful friend, sister, teacher, and mother. Veda Rose, the fearless, sweet, loving warrior princess. And Sam, the strong-willed little farmer. They will be deeply missed by all who knew and loved them.
Bailey's eldest son, Zachary, was 37 years old. His wife, Kelsey, 35. 2 of their children, 12-year-old Veda Rose and 7-year-old Samuel, died in the crash as well. Their oldest son, Finley, 10 years old, was not on the helicopter. A GoFundMe account has been created for Finley. A measure aimed at protecting residents on Chicago's south and west sides from pollution stalls in City Hall. The proposal would require industries that want to set up shop or expand in Chicago to submit a study that examines the amount of existing air, water, and soil pollution in a community, not just what the proposed project is expected to add. The city's zoning committee today peppered city officials with questions about the plan that faces opposition from business groups and labor organizations. Opponents say the measure would snarl new and expanding businesses in red tape, preventing the creation of new jobs. But backers of the plan say the city doesn't have to choose between good jobs and clean air. And she's big, she's beautiful, and she's on her way to downtown Chicago. The city's official Christmas tree has been chosen. Crews arrived at the Glenview home of Ryan and Jody Mason this morning to cut down the 6-ton, 66-foot Norway spruce. She'll be pruned and prepped for tree lighting festivities in Long Grove before setting up shop for the season in Millennium Park on Wednesday. The city's tree lighting event is on November 21st. The Mason family says they plan to germinate some of the tree's seeds and replant them so a piece of the tree can live on. Up next, we check in with local members of Congress amid the ongoing government shutdown. That's right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Alexandra and John Nichols family, the Jim and Kay Mabee family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
Government shutdown is on track to become the longest in U.S. history by tomorrow night, with Democrats and Republicans in Washington no closer to a spending agreement. Funds for a handful of federal programs, including food assistance for millions of Americans, dried up November 1st as a result of a shutdown. The Trump administration today agreed to release contingency funds to partially keep SNAP benefits coming following 2 federal court orders. But a long-term solution continues to evade lawmakers. Joining us with more are Congresswoman Delia Ramirez, Democrat representing parts of Chicago's West Side, Congressman Bill Foster, a Democrat from Naperville, and Congressman Sean Casten, a Democrat from Downers Grove. We also invited the Republican Congress members from Illinois, but they either declined or did not reply. I thank the 3 of you for joining us. Welcome back. Representative Casten, to you first. The Trump administration, as we've said, has agreed to pay half of the regular amount of SNAP benefits in November, following the court order from a federal judge in Rhode Island. Around 1.8 million Illinoisans are enrolled in SNAP. What is your reaction to the administration's decision only to restore funding partially?
You know, there's an old Chris Rock joke about people wanting credit for things they're supposed to do. And in this case, the Trump administration has done half of what they're supposed to do. The law is very clear that this contingency fund exists. The law is also clear that there's a transfer fund that they can take money from other funds, which would be sufficient to fully fund it. The fact that the Trump administration, who, by the way, seems to be completely unconstrained by the law when they invade our streets with ICE officers, seems to be completely unconstrained by the law when they steal money to prop up their crypto regimes, now is saying that they can't honor the law that would feed hungry people. Now, I'm glad the court said they have to do it, but they're still saying they can only fund half, and there's going to be some delays that's leading to a ton of uncertainty going into the holiday season, while Donald Trump is holding great Gatsby parties at Mar-a-Lago. I'm glad that some of the money is flowing through, but it's still less than is what's legally required, and it's just evil. I don't know how else to put it.
Representative Ramirez, Republican Speaker Mike Johnson today, he spoke on the president's focus on restoring SNAP benefits. Let's listen to that.
The president is desperate for SNAP benefits to flow to the American citizens who desperately rely upon it. He has bent over backwards, as you know, to get the troops paid, to keep WIC funding going. He's found creative solutions. So what the president said logically was, okay, Your Honor, if you're saying we can do it, I'll go for that, because I want SNAP to go to the people. It's the Democrats that stopped it, not us. So tell me how to do it. Because I have all my personnel here in the office, the legal minds and the number crunchers, and they're trying to figure out how this can be done. Give us some guidance. We're glad to do it.
Representative Ramirez, what's your reaction? First, to Speaker Johnson's argument that Democrats cut off SNAP funding, and second, to the administration's argument that there's no easy way to restore it.
You know, it's hard to hear Speaker Johnson when you know he's full of lies. It's hypocritical. This Republican government shutdown, it's theirs. It's appalling that they're willing to lie the way they are while children are starving. The president, if he wanted to fully fund SNAP today, he could. He always finds a way to get what he wants done, whether it's a ballroom or giving ICE agents billions of dollars. He could make sure that kids are eating today, and that's a choice that they're making. You heard Congressman Casten say the funds are there. He could immediately make those transfers. And even though the judge has ruled that he has to restore SNAP, those SNAP benefits will not be available, according to him, for weeks. People will starve as a result of it, and it's a choice, a cruel choice that Donald Trump and Speaker Johnson are making every single day, against the children that they say that they care about.
Representative Foster, we know a lot of what this comes down to is the fact that congressional Democrats want to make a set of Obamacare tax subsidies that were expanded. You all want to make those permanent. Republicans have said that those subsidies provide health care for illegal immigrants. But is it the Democrats' stance that you all will not open the government until you've gotten some guarantee on those subsidies being made permanent for those who are receiving them?
One of the things that's happened, I'm sure, to all of us, is that since the price estimates for insurance came out, now we're getting flooded by people who are saying, what is this? My insurance costs are going to double, right? Which is what the experts told us going into this was going to happen, and now it's happening, and people are saying, how am I going to afford insurance? The estimates are somewhere in the range of 15 million people are going to end up losing insurance through a combination of Medicaid cuts and price increases where they simply won't be able to afford insurance anymore. And previous shutdowns have always bordered on the same healthcare discussion. The Republicans have hated Obamacare since its inception, since I voted for it, back many years ago now, and they're finding every way they can to kill it. And one of the ways to kill it is to take away these tax credits that are crucial for many, millions of families in America to afford health insurance, and they're taking them away, and it's this is not a new game.
That said,
when Ted Cruz was holding the floor on reading Green Eggs and Ham, 2 shutdowns ago, it was a fight over health care. They wanted to cut it then, and they want to cut it now.
That said, if Republicans don't give in, if the Democrats don't give in, how will the government get to be reopened? Representative Foster?
Well, look, first off, we should be negotiating in Washington. And Speaker Johnson has no excuse for why he's holding the House out of session. We should be in Washington, first off, doing the normal business of Congress. Just because the government is shut down doesn't mean we can't be having hearings, but most importantly, actually negotiating on this. You can see Republicans all over the country saying, of course, we have to negotiate on getting the subsidies back for health care. And they've agreed to the principle, but they say we can't do this during shutdowns. And that's just another thing they're saying that's just simply not true.
So hundreds of thousands of federal workers have been furloughed without pay since the shutdown began. The largest federal workers union is calling for a short-term funding bill that would reopen the government, restart their paychecks, something Democrats have rejected. Congressman Caston, what do you say to those workers, including some who may have supported the Democratic Party, but are running out of time because they're running out of money?
So I've met with a lot of those workers, and those workers include all of our staff. There's no reason why we should have to go through this sacrifice right now. I think in all of the continuing resolution battles I've been in, it's always the same solution. You fund government on a temporary based level based on the last complete funding package that was passed by the House and Senate until you get through. The difficulty that Johnson and Thune have, and frankly, the difficulty that we have as Democrats, is that the last time there was a full funding package passed through, Nancy Pelosi was the speaker. Under Thune and Johnson's leadership, we have passed 0 appropriations bills during the entirety of the last fiscal year. And if Johnson brought a bill to the floor that said we want to fund it at the last appropriations package, you'd get an overwhelming bipartisan vote. That's the way through. Johnson's not doing that because when Kevin McCarthy did that, he lost his job because a significant part of his own caucus revolted. And so what they're asking us to do is not to continue to fund the government at current levels, but to fund it at levels that bake in all of the illegal cuts, the unconstitutional cuts, the power grabs that have come from the White House of saying we do not want to honor congressional funding levels. And that's never going to be a bipartisan idea, but you need 60 votes in the Senate. Now, I'm not happy about the fact that our air traffic controllers, our federal employees are all losing over that. But I would submit to you that when the White House has already completely eliminated agencies like USAID, like the Consumer Financial Protection Board, has cut the Department of Education in half. If we're going to fight for those federal workers, we're going to fight for all of them, not just the ones that happen to be favored by the Trump White House.
So Speaker Johnson, yesterday, he said that November 1st could mark a turning point in the shutdown. Here he is.
I don't know how they can believe they're winning if it were indeed a game to them, and I think it is, because you have all the unions now coming out against them, you have the major airlines in the country, you have every segment of the population and hardworking Americans who will be going without. You have 42 million recipients of SNAP that are in jeopardy right now. You have women, infants, and children because the nutrition program that President Trump and the White House have heroically funded thus far is running out of money. And of course the troops. I mean, we've gotten them paid now for 2 cycles, but that money is not inexhaustible and it's running out. And so increasingly the American people will be feeling the pain, and after we pass that threshold of the 1st of this month, it gets very real for more and more people.
Representative Ramirez, with funding for programs like early education, WIC, food assistance, military pay up in the air, are congressional Democrats, are you all feeling any increased pressure to get this done?
See, Johnson can say all that he's saying, but he has the ability, the power to call us back into session tomorrow, to actually negotiate a continuing resolution that actually restores healthcare, that makes sure the SNAP benefits are paid, and that we bring back all the federal workers, including the federal workers that are furloughed in HUD, that are not able to process the housing subsidies. We could be doing that right now. Johnson can call us into session, get that resolution going. But what he's saying is, I passed a resolution 6 weeks ago. It's the only resolution we're going to have. I'm not willing to negotiate. If you don't like it, then so be it. That's not how it works. But he's unwilling to call us into session because he wants to protect Donald Trump from the Epstein files being released. That is what's happening. He's willing to starve children so that Adelita Grijalva does not get sworn in. We don't have 218 signatures to release those files, and we don't reopen the government with a new continuing resolution. It is a choice he's making every single day.
Just about out of time, Representative Ramirez. While we've got you, of course, the ICE operations that have been going on in Chicago last week, Governor Pritzker asked U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem to pause on the ICE raids over the Halloween holiday weekend. She called that request shameful. What is your reaction? There was a reported noticeable decline in Halloween and Day of the Dead activities in Chicago over the weekend.
Yeah, of course there were. Because ICE agents, masked agents in these costumes that they wear every single day, were terrorizing people in my district and all over the Chicago area. It is pure evil what you were seeing with no accountability. It is a shame that our speaker is willing to celebrate the terrorizing of children who are not sleeping at night out of fear that ICE will take their family or hurt them too. That is what's happening in Chicago every single day. While we are in a government shutdown, but they have enough money to be sending these agents and these unmarked cars to terrorize people throughout the Chicago area.
Right, that's where we'll have to leave it. Thanks to the three of you for joining us, Representatives Delia Ramirez, Sean Casten, and Bill Foster. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're back with more right after this.
Be careful of moving.
The country's oldest planetarium has a new leader. Elizabeth Babcock is the latest CEO and president of the astrophysics-focused institution. She previously served as the founding director of the Smithsonian American Women's History Museum in Washington, D.C., and earlier in her career, the Chicago area native worked with the Field Museum, so her return to the city's museum campus is kind of a homecoming. Joining us now with more on her vision for the institution and current challenges facing museums is Elizabeth Babcock, the new president and CEO of the Adler Planetarium. Welcome back to Chicago.
Thank you so much.
Of course, and congrats on the new job.
Thank you.
Why did you want this position?
Oh, sure. Well, the opportunity to come to a historic organization like the Adler Planetarium that's approaching its 100th year in a fabulous city like Chicago, something I couldn't turn down.
Yep. It's a good place to be, right? It's a good job. So the Adler took a bit of a hit during the pandemic, of course, as did many museums, laying off 120 employees in 2020. It closed its doors for nearly 2 years. What are the planetarium's plans for growth and expansion?
Sure. So now we're past the pandemic and we're in, a few years on. So our plans and our plans for the future are really focused on our 100th anniversary. So we are in the middle of rethinking everything from how can we be more present around space discovery and exploration, how can we revitalize and renew a lot of our visitor experience efforts, and how can we continue to focus on science discovery. As a lot of people don't know, but we actually do research at the Adler Planetarium in astrophysics. So those are a few of the things we're going to be doubling down on. and of course, new planetarium shows.
Yes, lots of fun. So as mentioned, you were previously with a little-known institution called the Smithsonian. Ever heard of it?
Right.
And the Smithsonian's, really all museums throughout the country, have been under threat, of course, because of federal funding cuts to the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and President Trump's mission, of course, to get the woke, that's a quote-unquote woke, out of American museums. How are you dealing with that tension?
So here at the Adler Planetarium, we're focused on our mission, which remains the same, which is how do we get people focused on science, science exploration, and in our case, exploring the cosmos. So we remain consistently and steadfastly committed to that as a science research organization and a science education organization. For us, that's at the core, science inquiry.
So do you think any programming will change because of the federal government's policies or requests, demands?
No, we're actually very focused on what we do. We know that our visitors love the focus on space and space exploration. We're welcoming to all, and we are excited to continue on that same path.
As someone who is familiar with museums and all of your work and experience with it, in the letter sent to the Smithsonian Institution Secretary Lonnie Bunch III, the White House said that it will perform a comprehensive review of museums to, quote, assess tone, historical framing, and alignment with American ideals. What was your reaction to that request?
Well, I'll let the Smithsonian kind of comment on that question, but I will say that like all museums, it is a time of change and careful consideration. And for us at the Adler Planetarium, what we're focused on is the Chicagoland community and beyond, and how we can serve our audiences right now. And one of the things we know is it's key to be welcoming to all. We know that we're a science organization, so we're standing, steadfastly with science inquiry at our core. We are a planetarium. So when you come to the Adler, what you get to explore is the cosmos, the universe, and all of the new discoveries that are coming out almost every day. So for us, that's what we're staying focused on.
Planetarium's been using social media as a means, of course, to connect and educate the community. What are the plans that you have to get folks to visit in person?
Sure. So a couple things. One is over the holiday season, I want to encourage people to come back if they haven't been to the Adler in a while. We have a new exhibit about astrology and astronomy and the connections historically between those two fields. We also have a new planetarium we're going to be showing called Big Astronomy over the holiday season that's looking at some of the largest telescopes in the world that are exploring the cosmos. So first, new content, new experiences. Second, we're very committed to and excited about new exhibits and new activities and new kinds of science activities that people can do when they're actually in the building itself. And we're really focused on laying out a plan that's heavy on focus on space discovery and what's new today. For the first time in a long time, space discovery and the whole notion of what's out there in the cosmos is something that a lot of people are talking about, that all of us are interested in. And so that's the stories that we'll bring to the public.
You mentioned the latest exhibit that you all kicked off just on Halloween, Stars Aligned, tracing the story of astronomy and astrology, something fun for the Zodiac fans.
Exactly.
What can folks expect with that?
Sure. So it's a beautiful gallery that is exploring the common history between astrology and astronomy. And there are some really interesting connections in that regard. But we are actually displaying for the first time a lot of the objects from our collection. People may not know this, but the Adler has an extraordinary collection of historic objects and artifacts that tell the history and the story of astronomy. So we've brought some of those objects out, ranging from beautiful scrolls that tell astrological predictions to scientific instruments that actually advanced astronomy work. So it's a beautiful gallery, and we encourage people to come out. It'll be on for quite a while, so this is a great time to come out and see it while it's new.
A lot of people, when you're reading your horoscope, people are like, all right, that's cute and it's kind of fun, but some folks aren't really aware that astronomy is actually scientific and that it is a science. What do you find interesting about astronomy and astrology?
Sure.
Excuse me, astrology not being real versus not astronomy. Everybody knows that's real.
Yeah, totally. Yes. So one of the things I found most interesting is that a lot of the early astronomers also did astrological predictions on the side, kind of like a side business for them. And when we look back at some of the historic almanacs, you'll find in the almanacs astrological predictions and astronomy calculations and observations. So the science and the astrology side by side. I found that really fascinating, that the astrology part was kind of a side job for a lot of astronomers.
That is interesting. Like, yeah, like remember the 900 numbers back in the day, like you wanted to get your horoscope or whatever? Like, can I call one of the scientists if my horoscope turns out to be wrong?
Right, exactly.
So you talked about the centennial celebration. It's coming up in 2030.
Yeah.
You've got a little bit of time, but how are you all preparing?
Sure. So the first thing we're looking at is basically asking our audiences and our visitors, what are they interested in hearing about? What kind of experiences are they looking for at the Adler? And I like to say that, we're a museum planetarium. And for us, we want to provide those experiences that people can't get at home. So how are we leveraging our planetarium domes? We have 2 theaters right now that show amazing immersive digital experiences where you are transported in space and time out into the cosmos. So really doubling down on those digital and immersive activities that you can only do at the Adler.
All right, so it sounds like a good reason for people to physically go to the Adler to see it. Elizabeth Babcock, thank you for joining us. Congrats on the new position.
Thank you so much.
Of course. And that's our show for this Monday night. You can get Chicago Tonight streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news. And join us tomorrow night at 5:30 and a special time, 10:30. The Trump administration moves to end automatic renewals for some immigrant work permits, what it means for workers and the larger economy. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, wishing all a happy and healthy holiday season.